everybody, what's good? I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Don't forget, from now until Halloween, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to have 12 new spooky streaming suggestions for all of you. Folks, it's just about October, and I know I start my scary movie watching right when September hits, sometimes late August, but I know the rest of you, the moment October comes around, it's time to go. So I've done the homework for you, some of your old favorites, some ones you might never have checked out before. Every Wednesday night, you can catch new scary movie streaming suggestions to check out on platforms like Tubi, like Amazon Prime, like Shudder, and more. But I still got all my reviews coming out for you on a weekly basis. Everything in the world of horror, movies, TV shows, games, books, whatever I'm checking out. You don't want to miss any of that, folks. And the best way to stay on top of all that content is to get subscribed to my Linktree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed to my Linktree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page, the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my written reviews and movie rankings through the year, to my TikTok page, where you can find my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page, where you can catch my horror gaming, including Phasmophobia and The Thing Remastered, and to my Fangoria shop page, where you can enjoy my 20% off discount, anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button, as the more followers I get, the more content I can put out for all of you. So what are we talking about here tonight, folks? Well, we are right there. We are so close, folks. Just about done. It is the penultimate episode of Interview with the Vampire Season 1. Tonight, we are talking Like Angels Put in Hell by God. Folks, we are just about done here with the first season, and we're so close to some new Immortal Universe content. AMC actually dropped another teaser for Season 2 of Mayfair Witches, which is coming next year. Excited for that. Excited for the vampire Lestat. And yeah, the Talamasca, I think that's supposed to premiere fall 2025. It's either fall or winter 2025, but it looks like we're going to have all three Immortal Universe shows on the air in 2025. Exciting times, y'all. Let's just jump on into things here. In the previous episode, A Vile Hunger for Your Hammering Heart, you might recall that Louis was left in a terrible condition after a fight with Lestat. Lestat dropped him from, I don't know how many feet in the air, left him crashing to the ground, broken bones, internal organs messed up, just unable to do anything and confined to bed rest. Lestat disappears in shame, and Claudia is left to care for Louis over his long road ahead to recovery. Now, they might be vampires, but that doesn't change the fact that they can still be hurt. They can still take a while to heal up from these injuries that they have. Of course, they heal faster than we do as humans, and ultimately it would take quite a lot and very complicated ways to actually kill them. But again, it doesn't change the fact here that it's not like a lot of other mediums to where like the vampire gets hurt and it's like back to normal fairly quickly. So I think that's one of the good things about Anne Rice's series here, is that this allows for a little bit more exposition and a little bit more character building, especially in the case of Louis and Claudia, because again, Lestat is gone. And that doesn't necessarily mean that things are fantastic between Claudia and Louis, because Claudia still won't talk about what happened to her when she went to the States and she encountered the vampire Bruce. And Louis, regardless of what's happened with Lestat, it can't change the fact that there's still that love, there's still that connection between the two, so it won't change that there's still really like strong feelings that Claudia obviously can sense and pick up on as well too. So over the years, they end up having a few encounters with Lestat. Lestat shows up at one point to try to deliver a gift for Louis and hope that he'll like see him and talk to him. And Claudia rebukes him, and that's the end of it for that moment. He shows up another time when Louis finally like made his recovery, and him and Claudia are out like amongst the town. And it's this time to where they finally start to entertain some kind of reconciliation. And the relationship between them all really starts to change. And again, seeing where things get to in season 2, it is very interesting to see this as the firm point of the series to where the relationship really does change from, this couple having their daughter to they're all equals at this point. And it's, yes, Lestat and Louis are still there's that relationship, but it's brothers and a sister at that point. And this is decidedly the episode that does change that dynamic. And that's important to note because as time keeps going on and we get into season 2 and we see how Louis' relationship with Armand begins there and Claudia gets more integrated with the vampire troupe, it kind of explains more the reason why that happened. Because yes, like parents and their children eventually do like drift apart, but that's more so a thing that you really see happening with siblings, because siblings go and typically live off their own lives and go pursue their own interests and go do like their own very, very separate things. And sure, I mean, there's plenty of examples out there of siblings who like stay very, very close there, but that's where Louis and Claudia's relationship definitely evolves to in season 2. And it's just interesting to note that this is really the point to where that very much begins. And again, like reconciliation is what Lestat wants, and that's very, very, very important as well to the overarching nature of his and Louis' relationship and the way that Louis is telling this story to Daniel. Because remember, when we get to season 2, we find out that Louis either forgetting some facts, he's telling them wrong, he's not remembering them right, or Armand's interfering somehow. And it does show that, again, we know there's some misconceptions about this fight that these two had as well too, but it does show there that eventually when Lestat and Louis do reconcile at the end of season 2, that they've always had this kind of relationship that they'll always come back to each other. And I do mean that in a good sense, because the way that we at least see it through Louis' eyes is that Lestat is coming back remorseful about everything that happened. But again, while we see that through Louis' eyes, we also see that part of this is still either Lestat not having the patience to wait for Louis to accept, or it just being more deception. Because as we find out, even as Lestat is taken back into the home and this new dynamic begins with him and Louis and Claudia, that he still is the same old Lestat at this point, and that he's still stepping out on Louis, and that he still has issues with Claudia, and the two of them go back and forth. And again, it just calls into nature, again, the way that Louis is seeing things, and then the way that the three of them continue to just fuel the fire of this relationship. And that's something we have to be mindful of with this, is that, going into this just from looking at it from a season 1 perspective, it's easy to say that Lestat is the only bad guy. Lestat is the person in the wrong here. But after seeing season 2, we do have to kind of like give a little bit to Louis and Claudia as well, that all three of them are really, really the ones that are pushing this to blow up. Now, of course, some big conversation could probably solve all of this, and all three of them needed to go through a lot more respective trauma to really grow and get to that part of their relationship. But it's just interesting to look at the dynamic of it right now through season 1 eyes versus after getting through the end of season 2. So ultimately, a big part that comes out of this as well is that we find out a little bit more of Lestat's creation when he was made. And we hear the name Magnus, the vampire that actually created him, and the implication basically that he wasn't given anything at all. And we got more of that info in season 2 after Claudia's death and Louis on his death rampage, trying to catch up with everybody. But it's interesting that that information wasn't really coming out just between Lestat and Louis. And we know there's pain there. And if you know anything about the vampire Lestat and, again, Lestat's creation, the immediate before, the immediate after, you can understand why it might not be something that he necessarily wants to revisit freely at that point. So it's interesting to have to be forced out due to, again, this new dynamic with Claudia that they have. Now, with all of this, again, Claudia just decides that she has to excuse herself from the situation and decides that the only way that this situation really works for her is to, again, up and get out, that she can't remain with them. And Louis is obviously choosing to remain with Lestat she's not going to stay here. So she decides that she's going to go ahead and run away to Europe, basically. And unfortunately, Lestat tracks her down and forces her right on back. Now, at this point, this is when Claudia decides that he will never let them go, that they are basically property. They are owned by Lestat, and there is no life away from him. Claudia decides that their only move is to kill him. And you have to think about everything that they've gone through together in the years that they've been together as this family. And it's been a lot. It's been a hell of a lot that they've been through. And this is the point that Claudia has finally decided it's over. It's done with. And, you know, I bring that up because Lestat made an important point earlier in the episode talking about how young Claudia really is. Because Louis points out that, you know, she's 30 or 33, and I forget the exact number. But Lestat then says, you know, that's just a teardrop in the life of a vampire. And you have to really think about that, because then that means that ultimately Claudia really didn't spend that much time with Lestat and everything that they're going through before she ultimately decided that the only option was to kill him at that point. You know, in the movie, and I've talked about this before in my coverage of the show, in the movie, like, the time displacement, it works obviously very differently, because they have 2.5 hours, I forget the length of it, to tell that entire first book. Whereas, you know, we took 2 seasons. You could say what, 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours to tell that. Instead, you have much more exposition and can tell a much fuller and clearer story. But in the movie, we understand that, like, we're jumping ahead because we can't really, like, take this much time out of it. So I just always figured it had been much longer than it really was. But it wasn't really even 100 years at that point. And Claudia again decides that it's time to kill Lestat. And again, Lestat has absolutely put them through hell, but there's been pushback from all sides at this point. And it's just, again, interesting to look at it through those season 2 eyes and see everybody's role and everything that's going on at this point. Now, we can't finish things off without talking about what's going on in the present with Daniel interviewing Louis. And at a certain point, Daniel's getting his treatments and ends up falling asleep at the ending point of this interview, and has a dream where he's remembering his encounter with Louis in San Francisco, the original interview that happened. And we get a big shocking twist at the end of it, that Louis ends up greeting Rashid at the end of the episode in San Francisco of the past. Now, of course, by this point, we all know that's Armand, that Rashid is Armand, and that real Rashid is actually an agent of the Telemasca. But this was ginormous at this point, because in the show we had no reason at all to think that Rashid was anything else or anyone else than who he was. I remember watching this and being blown away at that point. And really just because, again, what I know of this franchise and of this story from the movie and from what I read in the book, I wasn't expecting Armand to be here. So that was a huge shock for me, as I'm sure it was for a number of you when you're watching this when it originally aired. So big shock. Rashid's in the past. And again, we don't know at that exact moment that he's Armand. We just know that Rashid is a vampire. Has to be a vampire at this point. No questions about it. Rashid is a vampire. And that is a shock, as Daniel himself realizes as he wakes up with a start. So that's where we're left off here, with one episode left here in the season. We know that Claudia is planning on killing Lestat, and she's going to rope Louis into that. How will this plot unfold, and where will that lead for things in season 2? Y'all stay tuned so I can give you more details. But Let me know in the comment section, when you watched this originally, how shocked were you to see that Rashid was a vampire? And did you know that Rashid was Armand when you originally watched this at that time? Because I sure did it. Let me know in that comment section, folks. The chance to win a Freddy Krueger Toonie Terror action figure. Gonna put you in for a drawing we're gonna do here in just a couple days, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you tuning in again. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.
Is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.